The Mozart Question by Michael Morpurgo. The door opened, and there he was in front of me, Paolo Levi, neat, trim, his famous hair long to his shoulders and jet black. "I'm Leslie McKinley," I said. "I've come from London." "From the newspaper, I suppose?" There was no welcoming smile. "You'd better come in. Shut the door behind you. I hate the cold." His English was perfect, not a trace of an accent. He seemed to be able to follow my thoughts. "I speak English quite well," he said, and we went up the stairs. Language is like music. You learn it best through listening. He led me down a hallway and into a large room, empty except for a couch by the window, piled high with cushions at one end, a grand piano in the centre, and a music stand nearby. And at the other end were just two armchairs and a table. Nothing else. "I like to keep it empty," he said. It was uncanny. He was reading my thoughts. Now I felt even more unnerved. "Sound needs space to breathe, just the same as we need air," he said. He waved me to a chair and sat down. "You'll have some mint tea?" he said, pouring me a cup. His dark blue cardigan and grey corduroy trousers were somehow both shabby and elegant at the same time. The bedroom slippers he wore looked incongruous but comfortable. My feet, they hate the cold more than the rest of me. He was scrutinising me now, his eyes sharp and shining. "You're younger than I expected," he said. 23? He didn't have to wait to have his estimate confirmed. He knew he was right, and he was. "You have heard me play?" "Beethoven's Violin Concerto, the Royal Festival Hall in London a few years ago. I was a student." I noticed his violin then, and his bow on the window ledge. "I like to practice by the window," he said, "so I can watch the world go by on the canal. It passes the time. Even as a child, I never liked practicing much, and I love to be near water, to look out on it. When I go to London, I have to have a room by the Thames. In Paris, I must be by the Seine. I love the light that water makes." He sipped his mint tea, his eyes never leaving me. "Shouldn't you be asking me questions?" he went on. "I'm talking too much. Journalists always make me nervous. I talk too much when I'm nervous. When I go to the dentist, I talk. Before a concert, I talk. So let's get this over with, shall we? And not too many questions, please. Why don't we keep it simple? You ask me one question and let me ramble on. Shall we try that?" I didn't feel at all that he was being dismissive or patronising, just straight. That didn't make it any easier, though. I had done my research, made pages of notes, prepared dozens of questions, but now, under his expectant gaze, I simply could not gather my thoughts. "Well, I know I cannot ask you the Mozart question, Signor Levi," I began, "because I've been told not to. I don't even know what the Mozart question is, so I couldn't ask it even if I wanted to, and anyway, I know you don't like it, so I won't." With every blundering word, I was digging myself into a deeper hole. In my desperation, I blurted out the first question that came into my head. "Signor Levi," I said, I wonder if you'd mind telling me how you got started? I mean, what made you pick up a violin and play that first time?" It was such an obvious question, and personal too, just the kind of question I shouldn't have asked. His reaction only confirmed that. He sat back in his chair and closed his eyes. For fully a couple of minutes he said nothing. I was quite sure he was trying to control his impatience, his rage even, that he was going to open his eyes and ask me to leave at once. When he did open his eyes, he simply stared up at the ceiling for a while. I could see from the seriousness of his whole demeanour that he was making a decision, and I feared the worst. But instead of throwing me out, he stood up and walked slowly to the couch by the window. He picked up his violin and sat back on the cushions with his violin resting on his drawn-up knees. He plucked a string or two and tuned it. "I will tell you a story," he began. "After it is over, you will need to ask me no more questions. Someone once told me that all secrets are lies. The time has come, I think, not to lie any more."